Hi, this is Erica DELSIGNORE. I'm the founder of Daily Lead Campaign, and we bring leads to people through social media and video marketing. You are watching my video interview series called Great Minds, Great Marketing, where I interview incredible entrepreneurs from around the world and get their take on marketing and tips for all of you, and even some really cool stories. So today I have the distinct pleasure of having not one, but two people on the show. Well, not people. One person, one cat. So we have the spunky old broad, Gayle Carson, on our show. She's going to be talking about how to get yourself more business through speaking and TV and radio. And we've got some great stories around that. And Gayle, would you introduce your assistant?
Here is Dylan. This is Dylan. This is my beautiful chocolate point Siamese from Buenos Aires, Argentina, I must say. He didn't know a word of English when he came to me, but now he doesn't understand Spanish. But this is Dylan. Yeah, there's Dylan.
Very, very cute. So I'm so happy to have both you and Dylan. Dylan is a very handsome young man.
He is. He's got a nice long tail, as you can see.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, they are one of the most vocal species of cat, I think.
Yes, they are. That's why I have to let him in, because if I kept him out of the room, he would be screaming at the top of his lungs. So.
Oh, yeah, well, I know what that's like. It's kind of funny because he's not the first cat to come on the show. We had a cat from someone I met on the Marketers Cruise. He had a hairless Sphinx, and it was hilarious. He was such a funny cat, and he didn't even have a name. He'd had the cat for 5 years.
And no name cat. No name cat. Wow.
Yeah, he runs around naked. It's awesome. All right. So, Gayle, I'm just really thrilled to have you on the show. We've known each other for years now, and we've always liked each other and hung out at lots of events, and we're both really into speaking and getting on TV, and you've been in this business for 50 years or something.
A long time, yes, a long time.
So we are so excited to get to learn from your experience and your knowledge. You're bringing more experience and knowledge than anyone else that I've had on the show, and I can say that for sure.
Well, I appreciate that, and of course some of it is good, some of it is bad, but most of it has been a happy situation. And a lot of different circumstances, that's the important thing.
That's true. We win or we learn, right?
Right, that's right.
Perfect. All right, so let's get right down to it. Let's just talk a little bit about what you do right now, because I think what you're doing now, I know you've done a lot of things, and you've always got a lot going on. But right now you're really helping people get on TV and radio and get ready for that by coaching them on how to dress and how to talk and how to present themselves. Is that an accurate description?
Yeah, what I'm really doing is I train people for radio and television. I don't get them on radio and television, although I personally do 12 shows a month, so there is the opportunity to be on one of my shows. However, the point is, I get them ready because nobody seems to know how to say anything in 3 minutes or less, and that's what I train them to do.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's fantastic. There's a lot of people that don't understand the value of an elevator pitch, like you said, and really how to be succinct in describing your message and what you need to get across to people. So I think that's incredible that you're able to help them really boil it down to the most essential bits of information that they can then disseminate out on radio or TV or stage. That's pretty much what you're doing.
And that's true. And of course, it's different for stage. I mean, you have more time on stage, and that brings a whole other issue in because you need to be able to move the stage and work the stage and walk and talk at the same time. Whereas usually in radio, they don't, of course, see you. And on TV, you're either seated on a couch or you are behind a desk usually. So it's one of three things. And you just need to know how to handle each of those.
Absolutely. And so I think that what the information that you are giving people and the training is invaluable for those that really want to get their message out. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on. And I would love just to, now that people kind of get what you're doing, let's talk about those 50 years and talk about boiling down some information, right? Let's talk about, look, how did you, where did you told me some really cool stories about how you got started as an entrepreneur back when there really weren't any women entrepreneurs and people really making it big like this.
This is true. I mean, you know, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, Eric. I really always, I knew I never worked for anybody else. I knew that I was not ever going to be a good employee. So I had a dream. And when I graduated college, I went to Emerson College in Boston, which is in your neck of the woods.
Absolutely.
And of course, when you go to Emerson, you are convinced you can do anything at all. So when I came to Florida, I gave myself 14 days to make it. And if I didn't make it in 14 days, I was going to go to California because that was the only other warm place I knew. And on the 14th day, I got the job I wanted, making $13 a week. And I was trying to figure out how I was going to live on that. And then I actually stayed and absorbed everything that was going on around me, stayed nights to watch how she taught because this was a modeling school. And in 30 days, I was making $100 a week. This is back in 1959. And 8 months later, I owned the business. So, and of course, when I started the business, when I bought the business, there was not a lot of business there. I mean, I actually had days where I didn't have to do anything. And I built my business by speaking. That's how I actually built the business. And I ended up with 7 offices, and we had a talent agency, a convention service company, career schools, real estate, court reporting, legal and medical secretarial, all of that. I had 350 people. I've graduated over 1 million people from all of my training programs. Wow. And that's what I started out doing.
And this was your modeling agency.
Yeah, it was SAG and AFTRA. We did the TV commercials and movies and print work and convention work, fashion shows that came to Florida, and so forth. And then, of course, the convention service company, that was theme parties, industrial shows, spouse programs, anything that conventions needed, I provided.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, as one of the interesting blurbs that you told me you would tell us about today, you were talking about getting over any hurdle, and one of those hurdles apparently was getting to a job interview that I'll let you tell the story.
Well, I'm not sure which job interview this was.
Well, the one where you drove a taxi there.
Oh, that wasn't a job interview. That was a speech. I had a speech in Watertown, New York. I mean, a full-day seminar. And Watertown is as North New York as you can get. And so I flew from Miami to Philly, and then I was supposed to get a plane from Philly to Watertown. And this was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. There was plenty of time. I was in Philly. Well, my 7 o'clock canceled, and then the 9 o'clock canceled, and then there was an 11 o'clock, which I was on, and I was still on the runway at 1:30 in the morning, and I thought,
oh my God.
Yeah, and so we came back to the gate, and I thought, you know, nobody can get to Watertown by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. It's just nowhere. So I called the meeting planner, and I said, what are my options? How much money can I spend? And she said, up to $500. So I rented a taxi for $500, and I said, do you know where you're going? I've got to go to Watertown, New York. Yes, I do. I got in the taxi intending to sleep in the back seat, but I never could because he kept stopping, and he was hungry, and he needed gas. And then about 6 o'clock in the morning when the dawn broke, and I looked, and I'm saying, where am I? We were still in Pennsylvania. We were in Scranton. And I said, we're only in Scranton. We've got to go to all the way north in New York State. He said, I can't drive 1 more mile. So I said, get out, get in the back seat. He said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to drive your taxi. And I drove the taxi. I drove the taxi to 5 minutes outside of Watertown, outside of the hotel, because I was in my jeans. And so I said, I woke him up at 9:05. I said, get up. He said, what? I said, I'm going to get dressed. He said, where? I said, in the taxi. And so I got into my suit and my earrings and my jewelry and everything. And we pulled up at 9:01. And the meeting planner, of course, was pacing away outside. And I did a full day seminar. So I got the Taxi Driver of the Year award from the group, however, but that's what I did. I drove the taxi. Yeah. And then he accused me of burning up his engine, but that's a whole other story.
Oh my God. Was it a standard?
Was it?
Did he drive a standard, a stick shift?
It was no, it was you know, an automatic.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. I wasn't sure what year it was because, you know, the standards were the standard.
Yeah,
this
was probably early 90s. Early 90s.
Oh, okay, so yeah, automatics were ruling at that point. Okay, well, I love that story. I think that's a great story about how to get it done. And, you know, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Oh, well, I'll tell you, I'm not sure I would or could do that today, but that's what I did back then. I mean, it was anything. I mean, believe me, I have taken Greyhound buses when everything else canceled because I had to get from, I remember going from either Madison to Milwaukee or Milwaukee to Madison, and the snow was just going crazy, sideways, everything, and everything canceled. So the Greyhound buses were running. I took a Greyhound bus. I got there. I did my program.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about marketing for a second. You know, I really love to ask the question, well, actually a business question, then a marketing question. You've run a lot of businesses, you've run large businesses, you've run small businesses. Are there any stories that you can share with us that, you know, was either a lesson learned or a success story after getting over a hurdle that would really help the audience today who are primarily entrepreneurs looking to succeed?
Well, I think the most important marketing story, period, is getting the job done, whatever it takes. I think today a lot of people give up too easily. They want to take the easy way. They want to, you know, I know you're an expert in social media, and I know a lot of people use social media, but sometimes that just isn't enough. And when you're contracted to do something, there are all kinds of stumbling blocks that come up. I think the most important marketing lesson is do what you say you're going to do and come through with what you've promised, and don't make excuses. I think those are the most important marketing lessons you can learn.
No, I love that. I think that's really great, and that's a great lesson for everyone to learn. I mean, you just have to keep trying. Nobody became an overnight success. There are no overnight successes. There's a lot of failures on the
overnight successes that took 10 years to get there, right?
Exactly. They may make it look easy, but I can tell you there's a lot of fall downs on the way to standing up. So I think that's fantastic information. Can you tell us a little bit about how you generate leads by all of the speaking that you do, whether it's on stage and radio and TV, and maybe even share with us which one is your favorite?
Well, I'll use this past weekend. I was in Houston doing a program for, well, it was a midlife kind of program, and I was talking about living life to the fullest and the things that you could do to live life after 50 and feel good about what you're doing and where you're heading. And what I did for that was I had a sheet with times for strategy sessions, and I only had 12 of them, and I booked all 12. And so people gave me their name and contact information, and today I sent a follow-up to that I would be speaking to them on Friday, and I have them set up for 25-minute sessions. So that's a lead generation by being there, and they wouldn't have signed up if they didn't relate to me, which is most important, because this way I kind of touched them in a way, and it was a much stronger lead than if they didn't really know who I was. So that's one way. Another way is just speaking and letting people know who you are, and then asking people for their business cards and then getting in touch with them later, or having a door prize and collecting information that way. Of course, the radio shows give me a lot of publicity, and I do 12 of them a month, so that's one thing. And then I also do a lot of TV, so I get leads from that as well. But I have found for me the best, and of course I write a newsletter every Monday also, so that goes out. So they can sign up for that on my website. But for me, the best means of getting leads is speaking.
Wow, Gayle Carson, you sure have a lot going on.
I do.
Do you have a
And I
couple of
take on
jobs
things.
that we don't know about?
Well, you know, I'm a facilitator for a TCI, which is a Commonwealth Institute. They've only got two groups, one in Boston and one in South Florida. And I am a leader, a facilitator, a mastermind. I run a mastermind for not-for-profits. And I have like humanity, Habitat for Humanity, the Girl Scouts, you know, people like that. And I've just volunteered to be the forum facilitator chair. And I do it because I like doing it. And I serve on the ambassadors board of Nova Southeastern University. We make people aware of who the university is and what they do and so forth. And one of my friends who just passed away left a sizable donation to them because of my affiliation with them. So I'm active in a lot of external things. And of course, I was a founder of the Florida Speakers Association with my friend. And so I'm very active still in that. And I just try to keep active with different things, because if you only focus on one thing, it's really good. It's really good for your business. But I think it encapsulates you too much. I think it's important to be involved with different things, to get different viewpoints, see how people perceive things so differently than you do, and get yourself out there in the world to know there's something else going on.
Absolutely. I think that's fantastic. I mean, you are such a well-rounded, diverse person in your activities and in what you do for a living. So I'm glad that it all works so well for you, and that it really makes up who you are. So I think that's fantastic. But so you're saying that mostly you're getting most of your leads from speaking and just getting out there and networking in all of these general areas. I mean, obviously these big companies know what you do and who you are, and although you're not there to sell yourself, you're getting leads over there as well.
Correct. I mean, when I did mostly business speaking, when I spoke on leadership and team building and customer service, that was a whole different market. Then I really marketed myself to corporations and associations, again through the phone, calling people, and also a lot of referrals, and also speakers bureaus. But now that I'm really specializing in media training and also working with that over 50 market, it's a whole different ball game, and you have to do it a completely different way.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. There's totally different ways of reaching out to the over 50 market, and not that they don't have the internet. 50 is young, but they're out there using all the technology. But maybe when you're getting to into 70s or 80s, not everybody is as savvy as you. And
well,
so,
I'm not really a technically competent person. I'm a real technophobe. I mean, I have to have everything explained to me, but usually once I learn it, I'm okay. But I have to tell you, it doesn't come naturally. I mean, I think what you do is absolutely amazing, and I would never attempt to do that. But but we need people like you, because you know what you're doing, and people like me need people like you.
And well, people like me need people like you as well. So I think that it works both ways for sure. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about business, and we've talked about strategies for marketing. I wanted to, just before we get to what you're offering the audience, I wanted to touch on what you think the best lead magnets are. I know that you sent me over a couple of lead magnets, and you've had a lot of experience with that over the years. What really works out there today?
Well, if you blink, it changes. So I'm not sure that I can be an expert on that. But I know for my market, for example, Facebook is very important. That's number one. Number two, I think that unfortunately, but that's the way it is, the text messaging is the way to go. And more mobile type of things are going on with phones now rather than even email, because there was the day when everybody said, wow, I got an email, and now people say, whoa, I get too much email. So I think mobile types of texting and messaging is very, very important. However, I still think in my market that referrals and speaking are the best. You know, the other is important. It's kind of like a backup. But I will tell you that I think speaking and referrals are the best for me.
And do you do a lot of joint ventures?
I would love to do joint ventures, and I've tried to do them a few times, but not everybody follows through, and that's what happens. People will say, oh yeah, I want a JV with you, and we make a date or we have plans, and they just don't follow through. And if they don't come up when they should with the deadlines that they've given you in the first place, then for sure it's not going to happen when it's supposed to. So I would love to JV with people. And of course, the people that are perfect for me to JV with are people who don't do what I do, but have my audience. So in the case of the women 50 plus, let's just say someone was a plastic surgeon. She's dealing with someone who's over 50, but doesn't deal with the mindset or doesn't deal with the regret-free living or that kind of thing. And the person who is most likely to need media training is a coach or an author or a speaker or an entrepreneur. Those are people who would need my kind of training. So people who would have that audience would be, you know, the kind of person I would want to JV with.
Okay, great. So if anyone out there can refer Gayle, anything like that, definitely. I'm going to give you her contact information. Tell us a little bit about what you're offering the audience today. I know we have one free thing up, your 6 tips.
Yeah, I do. I want to make sure I get it right. It's www.sob, because I'm known as the spunky old broad, Dr. Gayle SOB. So it's www.sob, the number 6 tips.com. And those are 6 tips for you to learn for media, to appear on TV, know what to do. It's good, some good basic hints. And you can go there to get that for free. And if you like that, then you can go further.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's fantastic. And maybe you could give us an example of just maybe 1 or 2 of the tips.
Well, I will give you 2. Number 1, always look at your anchor. Don't look at your audience or don't look at the camera. Look at the anchor, who is your interviewer. That's number 1. And number 2, no matter what the interviewer says to you, be sure that you get your points out. So for example, if I'm talking about, one of the things that I talked about was the 3 worst mistakes to make when you are looking to start a second career. So if somebody said, for example, well, you know, it's very interesting to think about how many people are unemployed right now and what they need to do. And then I would say, well, according to what the Census Bureau says, because if that's one of my facts, I would bring it back to what I need to say and get out there, because the host will take you very often in a totally different direction.
Oh, I know.
You need to get you need to get your points out there no matter what. So those 2 things, always look at the host and always get your points in there no matter what they ask you.
You know, it's so funny you say that. The last couple of interviews I've had, you know, near the end, I could see it coming, because I'd like to ask you, you know, one other question for our viewers, and I'm like hoping that the look of dread isn't on my face, because it was obviously something we didn't plan. I already went through all the points. I'm like, oh God, let's process a good answer quick. We are on live TV. So yeah, I guess be ready for anything, and you know, keep coming back to getting your points out there, because they don't often know your topic. They're just pulling something out of thin air, so that they can also sound intelligent and you know, be a part of the interview. The best ones are the ones that will you know, talk to you ahead of time, and you can tell them what they can say, and then what you're going to say back, and tell them how it goes ahead of time. I love those people the
Well,
best.
the last one I did, it was kind of interesting because it wasn't the regular interviewer. The interviewer was sick and was out, so they had somebody else substituting who was very good. But then she asked me, well, how many people are you doing that with here in that particular area? Well, of course I wasn't, because I was visiting. I flew in for the TV appearance, and so I had to make something up. I just said, well, we're working with a couple of dozen people right now. However, there are lots of opportunities out there for everybody. It wasn't a fact, but I had to say something. I couldn't say, well, you know, I'm just here for the day. You know? So you just have to go with the flow.
Well, you're certainly quick on your feet, and you know, I love it. And you know, I really want to thank you for coming on the show today. You always provide such interesting stories and inspiration for every audience, and so I appreciate you sharing that with my audience today, and for bringing Dylan along. He's certainly welcome back anytime.
Thank you so much. You'll appreciate that. Thank you for having me, Erica. It's been a pleasure. You are a great source of information for everyone. So your listeners should be quite happy that you're bringing them the quality of shows that you do.
Well, thank you so much. So everyone, again, this has been Gayle Carson that we've been interviewing, and my name is Erica DELSIGNORE. I'm the founder of Daily Lead Campaign. You've been watching my video interview series, Great Minds, Great Marketing, and we will look forward to seeing you on the next show. Have a great day, everybody.